When Tyler Perry first met Oprah in the mid 2000s, he was a playwright. He was packing out churches and community theaters with Medea's Family Reunion and Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Oprah saw the crowds, the message, and to be honest, the money making opportunities. She gave him airtime, mentorship, and later a major production deal that put him on the map as the voice of everyday Black America. By 2012, he was producing multiple shows for OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. And I don't know if y'all remember, but OWN was a flop in the beginning. The ratings just weren't there. And the series that he created, The Haves and the Have Nots, and If Loving You Is Wrong, helped to save OWN Network. Oprah supplied credibility, and Tyler supplied the content. It was presented to everyone as a cultural merger. But here's where my critique comes in. That partnership also cemented a single narrative lane, one where Black women's pain equals profit. Because when someone as trusted as Oprah co-signs you, your art automatically feels like healing, even when it's hurting. Tyler's earlier plays felt like a testimony. There was church humor, there were redemption arcs, and tough love. But as the budgets got bigger, the trauma got heavier. And Hollywood just wasn't challenging him. Because Oprah's stamp of approval told everyone that this is authentic, this is us, this is Black storytelling. And when people started criticizing the misogynoir in his later work, the question wasn't just, why does Tyler keep doing this? It was, why does Oprah's empire keep amplifying it? I'm not saying that there was malice from the beginning, but what I am saying is there was mutual benefit. Tyler got access, he got infrastructure, and he got mainstream validation. Oprah got the ratings. She got cultural capital. And she also got a steady pipeline of faith-based dramas that really fit her brand. My question is, what happens when that cycle rewards trauma more than transformation? You get a whole generation of viewers who think that suffering is the only story that we have permission to tell. Tyler Perry's relationship with the Black community didn't happen in a vacuum. It was built, branded, and broadcast with Oprah's help. Sure, every visionary needs funding, but every funder shapes the vision. And when someone who's worked with both Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey looks me dead in the digital eye and says that they've seen things that they can't unsee, to me, that's not gossip. That's a warning. And after hearing what our insider shared with me, let's just say that the public image that y'all think you know is not the private reality that people survive. Now, before we get into today's video, welcome to KieBeQuietTV. I am Kiasha Deshawn, and on this channel, we break down culture, media, and the power systems that shape Black storytelling. If you're new here, this is a lecture, not a debate. So grab a snack, grab a seat, and let's get into today's video. What happens when an insider who's actually worked behind the scenes for both Oprah and Tyler Perry finally decides to speak? Commentary is one thing, observation and opinion is another, but someone saying, I was there, hits completely different. Our insider, a performer with years of experience, shared with me what it was really like working behind the scenes for Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. It actually started with a comment on a previous TikTok video of mine. Then we messaged privately, and what they shared with me wasn't gossip. It wasn't celebrity tea. It was lived experience, the kind that scars you. Before I go any further, please hear me. I will not reveal their identity. No names, no dates, no productions. But what I can share is the atmosphere of each set, the feelings, the truth of each environment, the part that nobody outside of the industry ever sees. So let's start with Oprah. Our insider shared that from the outside, everything looked immaculate, polished, beautiful, inspirational. The set had a we're all one big happy family type of vibe floating through the air. But the moment that you stepped closer to Oprah, the energy shifted. Not loudly, not aggressively, but like a smile that never reaches the eyes. There was a tightness in the air. It was like a buzzing tension that lived just under the surface. People were walking fast, they were talking fast, and responding fast. They were polite and professional, but everybody was wound so tight that it felt like they were just going to shatter if you asked the wrong question. The environment wasn't outwardly abusive, but everything and everyone felt overmanaged. The closer you got to Oprah, the more you could feel that invisible pressure in the room. And the heaviest weight fell on the everyday workers, the ones who don't get interviews, the ones who don't get accolades, the ones whose names don't scroll across the screen in the credits. Our insider told me that Oprah was almost never alone. There was always another celebrity around her, always camera somewhere nearby, always a performance of the Oprah that the world expected her to be. They never saw her just being human. And the people around her, the gatekeepers, the handlers, the ones tasked with managing proximity, they walked like they were always one mistake away from accessing greatness. Our insider described it like this: people were always on the edge. The smallest thing could set somebody off, and extras were treated like irritants. That kind of tension doesn't just come out of nowhere. It starts from the top down. There was no warmth. There was no connection. There was reverence mixed with fear. And that kind of atmosphere shapes how people treat everyone below them. Then we talked about food. Our insider made a comment on something simple, but to me, it was actually very revealing. Actors, singers, and featured talent, the SAG protected workers, they were fed like royalty. They had access to gourmet food trucks and fresh, made to order meals, the kind of selection that you only see at food truck festivals. But the extras, they got leftovers, scraps, whatever was convenient. And if any extra dared to complain, they were dismissed. Not corrected, they were dismissed. And in my opinion, it's really hard to preach empowerment when the hierarchy is literally visible on your plate. And let me tell you, I've been on both movie and TV sets, and I've never seen extras treated that way by craft services. So that's not an industry standard. That's not a logistics issue. That's the culture of that set. Then we talked about Tyler Perry's set. I was told that the energy in the room changed instantly when Tyler walked in. Not gradually, not subtly, like a wave. People straightened their posture, they joked less, they spoke less, they even breathed less deeply. Not because he was yelling or threatening anybody, but because his presence was heavy. It was commanding in a way that did not ask for obedience, it just demanded it. He moved through the set like a man who knew that the whole machine ran on his approval. There were golf carts buzzing, walkie-talkies crackling. You had to be escorted or accompanied everywhere you went. People were stepping out of the way before he even reached them. This is an environment where you learn to stay small around him. You stay small and non-disruptive. And that kind of environment does something to a person. It teaches you that your safety depends on how little space you take up. Everybody was treated the same, yes, but that sameness was built on fear of invisible rules, fear of being noticed at the wrong moment, fear of being in the wrong place without the right escort. And that kind of environment, doesn't just drain your body, it drains your spirit. And when we talked about the work hours, long shoot days that bled into nights, that blended into mornings, 30-hour days. And when storms halted production, the workers were forced to sit on set, trapped for days, and any complaints were ignored. HR existed, but it was virtually useless. And then we talked about hair and makeup. Black performers were purposely assigned the wrong makeup shades. They were given no prep time, no support. They were set up to look unpolished, unprofessional, and then they were blamed for it. Imagine being a Black performer on the set of a Black production and knowing that your entire look on camera rests in the hands of some people that don't even care that you exist. To me, that's not an accident. That's systemic. But something that stayed with me was that the overall message of both of these moguls and the reality that our insider lived, they were not the same. Publicly, their messaging is empowerment, representation, and Black excellence. They push community and inspiration, but privately, people were hungry. They were exhausted. They were anxious. They were scared to speak. People were treated differently based on their rank, their skin color, their salary, access, and proximity to all the higher ups. And ironically, the Black workers felt the weight the hardest. Our insider ultimately left the industry, but not because of one explosive moment. They left because of 1,000 tiny ones, 1,000 moments of being silenced, dismissed, or going completely unseen. 1,000 times where their spirit told them, this is not a safe place for you. I could actually feel the exhaustion, the grief, the confusion in their words. And I'm sharing this not for spectacle or for gossip, but really to expose what happens behind the scenes. Because when we talk about Black Hollywood, we can't only talk about the moguls and the A-list stars. We have to talk about the everyday workers who get crushed underneath the weight of the Hollywood machine. When I asked our insider why so many workers stay quiet, not just about the big things, but the everyday harm, the emotional abuse, the spiritual exhaustion, they explained that you don't speak because you know no one will listen. And if they do listen, they won't protect you. And that is the foundation of the Hollywood machine. Because when the most powerful people in Black Hollywood, the billionaires, the cultural giants, people that the world worships, when they control the stories being told on camera, they also control the stories that people are allowed to tell off camera. In this industry, image is currency. When someone's entire legacy is built on being the voice of a community, the savior of the culture, or someone who gives opportunities, there is almost no room for critique. People don't want to hear it. People get angry when you bring it up. They accuse you of being ungrateful or bitter, jealous, or trying to tear down a Black man. You learn that the public would rather defend the celebrity than protect the worker. And that is enough to keep most people quiet forever. Not to mention, NDAs and contracts are like invisible chains. You don't need threats when you got the white man's paperwork. And you don't need intimidation when you have legal language, especially when HR exists, but it functions like a locked door. It's technically there, but it's useless. People sign paperwork that makes them second guess everything. What they can say, who they can tell, what counts as a violation. You can't help but think, am I reporting something that will ruin my career? What if I think that speaking is allowed, but the contract says otherwise? And I believe that confusion is intentional. Access is used as a weapon, and Hollywood runs on access. You don't speak because you don't want to be blacklisted. You don't want to be blacklisted from all the rooms that you spent your whole life trying to get into. You're looking for a chance, a callback, a recommendation, something. So the fear of being blackballed is enough to keep your mouth glued shut, especially when the people that you be speaking about are the same people that the entire black community sees as untouchable. People eventually get worn down. And our insider didn't describe loud chaos or dramatic scandals. They describe the kind of harm that creeps and lingers, the kind that follows you into your house, into your sleep. It makes its way into your relationships and lives in your body. Little things, daily. Eyes watching you, voices whispering about you, people snapping at you, long hours, stolen items, dismissed complaints. You start feeling unseen, feeling small, feeling like speaking up will only make things worse. And by the time you realize how much this has drained you, you don't have the energy to fight it. And that's how people get trapped. Not by violence, but by exhaustion. And the unfortunate truth is, Black people in pain will often protect Black people in power. All skin folk ain't always kinfolk, but the community treats them like they are. So if you say something, then you become the villain. People don't want to believe that their heroes are harmful, especially when those heroes have built empires on representation. So the worker, the survivor becomes the problem, not the system. And that isolation is enough to silence entire generations of talent. As I mentioned, our insider didn't stop working in the industry because of one thing. They stopped because they realized that nobody cared what happened to them. And to me, that's the real story. Not the rumors, not the celebrity drama. It's the people who get eaten alive by the system built to protect the powerful from accountability. And for a long time, people have asked, why are Black stories always traumatic? Why are we always dying, crying, struggling, praying, or surviving something awful? Why do our biggest movies look like suffering on repeat? And it's because Hollywood is built on a trauma economy. This is a system where pain is profitable. And in Hollywood, Black struggle equals guaranteed engagement. Audiences, Black and non-Black, have been conditioned to consume Black pain for entertainment. And Tyler Perry didn't invent this economy, but he damn sure mastered it. He knows that trauma is emotionally gripping. It sells. And humans react faster to fear, shame, pain, and tragedy than they do to joy or nuance. And studios want guaranteed returns. And here's the formula that nobody wants to talk about. Trauma equals views, views equals money, and money equals power. Black trauma, in particular, has become a genre, not just a storyline, a genre. And there's a dark truth underneath all of this. People are more comfortable watching Black people suffer than they are watching Black people be complex. That's where Tyler Perry fits in. He purposely creates worlds where Black women are betrayed, beaten, humiliated, cheated on, abandoned, broken, and saved only through suffering, prayer, or a light-skinned man. He also creates worlds where Black men are predators, users, destroyers, and redeemed only through women's pain, over and over and over. That is not a coincidence. That's not creativity. That's not just his writing style. That is a template of trauma that guarantees emotional engagement. Tyler Perry does not write stories. He writes triggers. And triggers keep people watching. That's the part that a lot of his fans simply don't want to admit. And where does Oprah fit in to all of this? It was her blessing, her brand, and her platform that helped solidify Tyler Perry's trauma-centered universe. She made it authentic Black storytelling. She gave his work legitimacy. She gave it reach. She gave it protection. And she helped turn it into a cultural product. And once something is labeled as cultural, people don't want to question it. They defend it, even when it's harmful. And of course, this hits Black people the hardest because the trauma economy doesn't just reflect how the world sees us. It teaches the world how to see us. And every time a Black woman screams, wails, forgives, or collapses on screen, people internalize that. Every time a Black man is violent, manipulative, or unhinged on screen, people internalize that too. Repetition becomes identity. Identity becomes expectation. Expectations become stereotypes. And stereotypes become treatment. Hollywood does not just influence audiences, it shapes society. And Tyler Perry's catalog, amplified by Oprah's influence, has shown the world a version of Blackness that is rooted almost entirely in pain. That's not representation. That's programming. And Tyler Perry's sadism, his fixation on Black harm, Black humiliation, Black trauma, it's not just a writing style. It is profitable. It is predictable. It is market tested. It's what executives expect from him. And it's what certain audiences now crave from him. It's what the machine rewards him for. His brand is built on pain. And pain, unfortunately, pays. The insider that I've been speaking with, they have lived inside this machine. They saw how the messaging of encouragement clashed with the reality of exploitation, exhaustion, neglect, and silence. They felt the emotional and spiritual toll of a system that demands everything from workers while protecting the powerful. And their story is a reminder that the trauma we see on screen often mirrors the trauma that is happening behind the screen. That's why we need to talk about this. Because if we're going to demand better representation, we need to demand a better industry, a healthier industry, an industry where Black artists and workers don't have to sacrifice their spirit, their safety, or their dignity for a paycheck. Tyler Perry's success is not accidental. It's not random. He is not misunderstood genius. This is what happens when a man discovers that Black suffering is a market and he decides to sell it back to us at scale. And I think we deserve better. I think we deserve softness. We deserve complexity. We deserve care. We deserve stories that don't break us to prove that we're worthy. This is a system that protects the powerful and disposes of the vulnerable. A system where silence is survival, but silence is also suffering. That's what pushed our insider to leave the industry. They finally understood the real cost. Our insider's testimony isn't gossip, it is a pattern. It's a pattern that I've seen repeated in stories across Hollywood. And when you put Tyler Perry and Oprah into that system, you get two people who built empires on inspiration and representation, while workers behind the scenes struggle, suffer, or disappear completely. These stories matter, not because Tyler Perry is famous, not because Oprah is powerful, but because Black viewers deserve the truth. Imagine what we'll find if we go deeper into Oprah's world. Her mentors, her scandals, her choices, her school, her pattern of proximity to people she should have never been near. A lot of y'all are not ready. But in episode 102, we're going to do a deep dive into Oprah Winfrey. So come back for more. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Behind the Scenes on KieBeQuietTV. If this raised some questions for you or opened your eyes, then go ahead and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok at KieBeQuiet. And you can also join my Substack if you are interested in extended commentary, essays, and insider updates. See y'all next time.